Joel, bullish for the dollar. Specifics now on timing. So a target to look forward to. That must be welcome when it comes to investor certainty, not least of all in Forex land.
Yeah, I think we did see that with the support for the US dollar, as you mentioned, coming across. We did see it was broad-based. It was usually about a cent that the US dollar picked up at least versus all the major crosses. The Australian dollar was right in that line, losing right on a cent, trading up around the 91 US cent mark. It really was before the Fed met, and a really bit of a nothing session for the Australian dollar. Was flirting around just above the 91 US cent mark, and then as soon as we got the releases, we just dropped like a stone, like all the other currencies that were facing the US dollar. We did see those longer term predictions be amended, but one of the key things that I was looking at is we saw inflation earlier the week still remains pretty muted, hucked around that just above 1% mark, and we just keep seeing the Fed Reserve continue to amend their inflation predictions going forward. They just can't quite get it right, and it seems the same for their predictions around the jobs numbers. They've just been overestimating inflation performance and underestimating jobs numbers going forward. So it'll be interesting to see how well they pair up as we go into 2015 as opposed to their new projections.
Yeah, well, I suppose therefore it was sound strategy to drop the 6.5% threshold rule, I suppose, and revert to existing language in the statement.
Yeah, I think that was always going to be dropped because we're just so close to it and have been hovering around it for the last few months with US unemployment data. That is a big concern with the projections. We have seen a lot of missed projections by the Fed Reserve. They have been overly optimistic, especially through 2013. So we did see a reaction for the par for the course with the announcement, but we might see a little bit more Aussie dollar support through the weekend now as an opportunity a little bit to jump back in, because really the effects of the Fed statement shouldn't change anything in the near term.
Okay, let's talk about the Q4 GDP out of New Zealand. The call was, I'm just looking at this actually because I'm getting a read that was saying it was slightly stronger than the Reuters expectations. They were calling 3%. We came in at 3.1, right? But you're saying the dollar's been sold off.
Yeah, we did get a revision to the previous quarter, so that didn't help either.
Right.
Predictions were around for that quarterly mark of around 1%. We came in at 0.9 for the quarter. It depends which way you do want to read the GDP from New Zealand. I think just with obviously the interest rate move so far in March, there is a bit more bullishness around economic data coming out of New Zealand, especially after the comments we've seen from the RBNZ. So with that miss this morning, especially in that risk-off play that we did see overnight with that demand for the US dollar, was sort of no surprise we got a little bit more of a pullback from the New Zealand dollar. Yeah,
because I was looking at year-on-year growth, so that's where they beat on the call, but as you say, on the quarter itself, it might have been a miss. But is that just the inevitability of the way the Forex markets are positioned, that it'll be the quarterly release that really moves versus the year-on-year?
Yeah, well, that was the one that was taken by the FX markets, just that headline quarterly miss. It wasn't a huge miss, it was 0.9. I think the market expected 1%, but it's just in line with a more bullish view of that risk-on performance of the New Zealand dollar. And we did see the Australian dollar perform quite well. It picked up nearly half a cent as the announcement was released, but in terms of an Australian dollar movement versus a US dollar, it probably hasn't helped that much and contributed to about the 10 to 20 pips that we've seen shed through this morning, just as we really take that risk-off view that there's nothing to give the Australian dollar any form of support, and that really continues on today. We don't have any Australian data as we normally have at 11:30 on a Thursday quite often, so the market's still looking to last night's Federal Reserve, and there's really no positives to take away for the Australian dollar, and that really continues on through tonight and tomorrow. We don't have any really blockbuster economic data coming out to change any near-term predictions, so the market's probably going to be really leaning towards the EU summit that's coming up tonight and tomorrow, and that's probably going to be really just waiting to see what statements come out where we see the moves for risk currencies.
Okay. Very good. Well, that euro's fallen to its lowest level in nearly 2 weeks, and they're saying now it's vulnerable to a deeper slide, maybe below 132. Joel, we must go. Thanking you.
Thanks for that, Carson.
Joel Murphy from Pepperstone. Coming up on the other side of the break, we'll bring you our top stories. Stick around.